we've seen a lot achieved in the last few months, indeed over the last few years. So I think generally there's a consensus now to get this over the line. There's been a lot of work in the background, and it does look like they've got there. It was an arduous task. I'm probably surprised that they got there that quickly. I think the headline stuff is done. I think it's agreed. There's a consensus on that. But there's a lot more important work to be done in the background, and the detail is important. And I think perhaps the implementation date is still quite ambitious. I think 2023 is possibly too tight a deadline, but I think we'll get there. I think it's just about timing.
Peter, Ireland was one of the key holdouts for a long time and finally came around once the language was adjusted. And we did see the language adjusted to get Ireland over the line. Do you think that this is vindication for Ireland for holding out? Is that the way you think the Irish see it?
Yeah, I think it is. I think absolutely. It is a vindication of Ireland's strategy. I think there was just too much uncertainty with a rate of at least 15%. I mean, that opened the door for potentially much higher rates, maybe 20 or 21%. So from Ireland's perspective, we would have preferred to have maintained our sovereign right to set our own rates. But can we live with a 15% rate? Yes, I think we can. I think Ireland can still be attractive for foreign investors. And I say that because 15%, having the certainty on that is important, and having the assurances from the OECD and the EU that it won't increase. I think we'll get that. I think secondly, 15% is still low. It's still low in the global context. And again, I say that in an environment of increasing rates elsewhere, indeed in the UK and in the US. And finally, I'd say Ireland is a lot more than just tax. So I think that's important too.
You know, it's interesting you say that you don't think it will deter new foreign investment from coming into Ireland. What about existing multinationals, the ones that are already based in Ireland? Do you think that this changes their calculus?
Yeah, I think time will tell. And, you know, there's a lot of conjecture as to what it might mean. Personally, I don't think it will. I think it is going to put an emphasis on other aspects rather than just tax. And it's interesting when you look at many foreign investors that come to Ireland, tax is indeed often the reason that they first come. The first attraction, tax is a cost. So if it's a lower cost of doing business, that makes sense. But if you ask companies in Ireland after a few years, why are you still in Ireland? Tax tends to be further down the list. And I think that's important. And you see things like access to EU markets, stable infrastructure, stable political environment, educated workforce, and supply of labour. And I think that last point in particular, talent, it's going to be not just important for Ireland, but important for everybody. And I think that's why I think we can attract new investment as well as retain existing investment. Ireland is a good place to work. People want to come to Ireland to work. And I think that's going to be increasingly important in the future.